So welcome, thumbs up. This is what I'm calling Bantam Blitz chess, and Bantam is referring to the smaller board, playing on a 5x5 board here instead of the traditional 8x8, and Blitz because it's a far faster kind of gets right to the punch of the mid to kind of late game chess, where you're a little more willing to lose pieces and move pieces around freely, and gets rid of the openings in the slower parts of chess, so to speak. Now, what Bantam Blitz borrows from poker is the Texas Hold'em style of, I guess, dealing out pieces, or how you acquire the pieces you get to use. It also kind of borrows some of the betting from that as well, and I'll get to that in a second. So what I have here is kind of a game that's just about to start. It has some setup already in place. I thought it would be kind of nice to see a little bit of the game set up, and then I'll rewind for a second to kind of show you how it all sets up. So yeah, let's go ahead and just do that now. We'll go ahead and take these two back here and put these back here. So before the game starts, there's the betting phase, which is kind of like the blinds in Texas Hold'em, but since there's only two players, there's really only blinds. And since white player does go first and has a little bit of an advantage, they are the 2 to the black player's 1. So they're betting $2, the black player's betting $1, or 10 and 5, 50, 25, 150, whatever you want to do. For this sake, let's just do 10 and 5. $10 bet by the white player, $5 bet by the black player. And you would play a couple rounds of this, so it would swap next time, and you would obviously, it would be fair. So white player puts in $10, the black player puts in $5, and what happens now is you flip over, these would not be dealt yet. What you do is you flip over, after you shuffle this, 2 community cards. And what this does is it kind of gives the first 2 pieces each player will use, or it shows, reveals what those will be. So you would go through your deck of piece cards here and get those 2. Black player has done that, white player has done that. Then you would shuffle your cards and draw 2 of your own secret cards. So I would draw these 2 cards. Here you can see them, a rook and a pawn, but I would only see these, my opponent would not. Same with the white player, they drew a queen and a pawn, but I would not know that. We're going to leave these face up just for the purpose of this video. So now in this case, we begin placing our pieces. You cannot place out of your hand yet, we just place our community cards. White player, of course, goes first. They'll place a pawn here. Black player will then rebuttal with that. White player then places their pawn here, and black player chooses to place their pawn there. So now at this point, we can choose if we want to play this game, or the black player needs to come up to the full ante of the white player. So white player's in $10, black player is only in 5. I think I have good odds as the black player here, so I'm going to put in my additional 5. We're up to $20, set game to start, so we'll begin. On your turn, what you can do is one of 2 things. You can either move a card, so in this case, either pawn or the king, or you can play one of the cards from your hand. When you play a card, you redraw back up to 2. So let's kind of show you why I think this is interesting right off the bat, and why it gets into this kind of middle to end game of chess, but also gets into the kind of mind games, intimidation of Texas Hold'em or poker. So the white player got lucky and drew their queen on the first draw, so they're going to place that here as their first move. They can't move any pieces, they're only playing. They redraw back up to 2. So now what this does, which is awesome, I think, and it's like immediately kind of hits you with an advance that the white player is making, is if the black player, let's say, didn't want to play one of their cards and chose to just move one of their pawns, then on the next turn, the white player could basically check their king, and if they moved one of these pawns, they could get out of there and not be checkmated. But it's an instant attack, which I think is interesting and something you don't get in chess right off the bat. It's like flipping 2 aces on the flop of Texas Hold'em, it's instantly like, oh man, who has the other ace in their pocket or something like that. So what this does is it creates an offensive from the white player on the black, and so they have to, immediately deal with that instead of worrying about their own strategies, which is cool. So what I would do here is I would place my rook here. What that does is it prevents this becoming a check and also protects my rook from my king, where if this came down here, it couldn't take this without being in risk of getting taken by the king. But if I put this here, obviously I would just lose my rook. I wouldn't want to do that. So this is kind of immediately those openings that really create a sense of intimidation right away from one player to the other, and it really creates this nice instant kind of mid to late game form of chess, which I think is really nice. So then you would continue to play this out, and moving one piece at a time, taking pieces. All pieces still move their normal diagonals or straight lines. Pawns take diagonally, and pawns can jump 2 if they want on their first move. And if you are able to get a pawn all the way to the end, what it does is it gives you a third card here that you can use, and this pawn is then removed, taken out of the game, and you then have 3 cards to work with. Now you don't get to just keep 3 all the time and then draw back to 3. What you would do is you just get 3 for the moment until you use one, then you use another turn, and then you always just draw back to 2. But it does give you that little boost, and you can obviously do it again with another pawn where you continue to draw more and more cards instead of just 2. And ultimately you have to checkmate the king. If you do run out of pieces or something like that, there's the rare occasion of a draw, but usually somebody kind of ends up taking over pretty quickly in this game. So that is Bantam Blitz chess, and I think it's a really cool form of chess that borrows elements from Texas Hold'em with community cards and things that you're sharing, but also has this element of mid to late game chess that's a little more exciting right off the bat. I hope you like it. Thanks.